Does it work? Let me see. Yeah, it works. Welcome. Honorable Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here at the Credit Institute. After a busy week, within a busy week, in the middle of a busy week, but also after a busy, exciting election day. So now finally we know who is the new DG to come, but we also know that he will have a lot of challenges ahead. And one of those challenges is to adapt to a changing political environment and to ensure that we act within the framework of the SDGs. The SDGs do provide a very useful, overarching framework for action. It is on the one hand to no one leave behind, you know that, but also on the other hand to act collectively, to ensure joint action and policy coherence at the national level, to implement policies not in silos but together, and to recognize the interconnectedness and the complexity of issues. The implementations of the SDGs require cross-sectorial action, as hard as it may be. The Adelaide Statement, building on the Shanghai Declaration, demands action at 3 levels to ensure that health and well-being is integrated in all policies. Action on determinants, action on equity, action on shared leadership with the engagement of all citizens. So action is needed indeed at national level for ministers, directors of health, and all others to reach out to other sectors, departments and ministries. But action will work only if we have champions to drive this process forward, be it at the national or at the global level. And let me take this thought a bit further. Champions are needed to drive the process, but champions are only then effective not only due to their knowledge and their experience, but also because of their leadership and their commitment. This commitment is a choice. It is a political choice. And we need good political choices to be able to address complex existing and emerging challenges to health and well-being, and to be able to integrate health in all policies. So I'm very pleased at this point to welcome a few of those champions here today for action and to hear about action this night. So I'm very pleased to welcome the Honorable Minister of Sudan, Bahraide. Please, if you would join us here at the panel, but also together with other, welcome the Minister, together with other committed champions from across the world, spanning from South Australia to Thailand, Sudan, Finland, and Canada. So please join us on the panel, Professor Betty Phillips from South Australia, Mr. Auro Koivisto from Finland, Dr. Veerasak from Thailand, Dr. Horacio from Canada, Quebec, to be exact, and Dr. Abdallah from Sudan, and last but not least, Nicole from the WHO. Thank you. So the floor is yours. I hope you will enjoy this evening, this distinguished guest. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. Thank you for listening. Thank you, the ministers and all guests. The floor is yours.
At the beginning, I would like to thank Graduate Institute and Michaela Told for hosting this very important event, ASAS event, during holding the WHO Assembly. And also I would like to thank the panelists who are sitting in front of me And let me thank also all the audience here. Well, thank you for attending this important event. And I would like at the beginning to say that health in all policies, actually the issue of the health in all policies, this important issue which came because health is a cross-cutting issue, not only in the Ministry of Health, even not in the health sector, but health found in different ministries and institutions, and we cannot reach the targets or objectives of the health if we do not take all these institutions, the ministers together up through the approach of the intersectoral. This practice had been practiced in different countries, especially those countries who are sitting in front of me, the representative in front of me today here. This is why all these countries, their experiences, practice it within their countries, and sometimes regionally and even international arena. Including within these countries, Sudan also has some experiences. Last year, we had a side event here during the Health Assembly also, and shared some countries like Finland and Thailand at that time with Sudan, present some papers, some experiences, different views come out from the different countries. This year, we're going also to have the same, or we are going to repeat that event, but this year, more experiences sharing us today, especially from Quebec, from Canada. And also we have Australia, the first time. These countries they have very leading role in their countries and very rich experiences also. I hope this year, in addition to experiences already we gone through last year, in addition to that, we hear to these additional countries like Australia and Quebec from Canada. Anyway, what I am going to do is I will give 5 minutes for each panelist member here. 5 minutes. I am going to raise a certain questions according to the information I have for each country. Then I will give for the second round 3 minutes also for each member. I raise another questions also for them. Then I will come back to the audience. I will give chances to the audience 2 minutes for speakers who want to make any comments on the panelists' speech. Then at the end, I will come back to the panelist members to give 1 minute for closing remarks. Then after that, I think we can come to the conclusion, which is maybe there are some ideas about how, if we can have a steering committee, or we can launch the global network for the health in all policies. This is what we are going to do today here. So for once again, I thank you, the panelists, members here, and the audience. And I will start. If that's okay if there's no any comments on that, I will start forward. Okay? Okay. Then the issue of the health and all policies, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to start with Professor Paddy from Australia. And my question to Professor Paddy is, South Australia has a long history working on health in our policies and is one of the leading examples globally. So with your long-standing history on health and our policy implementation, what will you consider the most three important lessons that you learn from this long history with the all policies in your country?
Well, thank you very much, Minister, and thank you very much for organising this event, and to the Global Health Institute for hosting it. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm looking very much forward to the formation of the network, which I think is a very important and strategic move. For those who don't know South Australia is one of the 6 states that make up the Federation of Australia. We are situated in a temperate climate. It's a small state. It's only approximately 1.7 million people, but it's called a city-state because approximately 1.2 million of those 1.7 live in the city of Adelaide. A very centralised government with 2 tiers locally and 1 tier federally. 2 tiers locally are the state government and then local councils. We started Health in All Policies a decade ago, and one of the leaders in that area came to South Australia and spent some time there, and she was the catalyst, Professor Ilona Kickbush, for us starting this journey. And in that time, in that 10 years, it has become extremely well embedded, and so much so that in fact it's written into our state's 30-year plan that's coming out, due for consultation and release next week actually, for the city of Adelaide, the city of Greater Adelaide. We have been thinking, and part of that thinking was the Adelaide conference in April. Helped us to sort of crystallise about why, how we came to where we were. And in answer to your question, Minister, the three main areas were a mandate from central government and the head of government. So that's the first. The second is focusing on the determinants of health. And then the third is a flexible and adaptive approach. And I'll just speak briefly about each of those. The mandate from central government is fundamental. Health can't do it without being seen, as we like to call it, health imperialists, if we try to force our opinions onto other people. And having the mandate of central government and the leader of government gives us permission and gives other people permission to talk and do this. And in fact, acts as the imprimatur of the leaders of government to take this forward. That was a very important foundation, and that's been a continuing enabler throughout our history. The second is focusing on the determinants of health. That's been really important when we go to other departments and to other agencies in terms of working out what are their agendas and how can we co-align along their agendas and health's agendas. And it turns out it's actually remarkably, easy is too strong a word, but the people are interested in having a good result for what they do, whether it be a policy or a program or infrastructure or whatever. They're interested in a positive and beneficial outcome. And often it's a process of helping them realise that they can achieve their outcomes at the same time as helping us to achieve ours. So, and those social determinants obviously are infrastructure, education, environment, and a variety of other things. And they all fit into the SDGs, as we all know. The third, and one of the equally important enablers has been a flexible and adaptive approach. People change, ministers change, policies change, times change. And we all have to move with those times and all those changes. And being able to read the evidence and implement new evidence and work within the changing dynamics of the situation, whether it be new evidence or politics or changing people in the various agencies, has been really important, and not being rigid and concrete in the way we do things. So those, in answer, Minister, it's the three things of a central mandate from government, focusing on the determinants of health, and then a flexible and adaptive approach.
Thank you, Professor Paddy. Thank you, Professor Paddy, for the comprehensive comment on the question. My next question goes to Dr. Taro Quavisto. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. So from Finland, and my question is about promoting well-being and health is one of the strategic objectives of Finland, and you have early on introduced cross-sectoral work through out different ministries to foster health and well-being and reduce inequalities. Can you tell us a bit more about the rationale for your current emphasis on health in all policies, on equity, and how you see this responding to the action for SDGs?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, Minister. And thank you for being invited to this session. I think it's really important that health in all policies is taken up during the World Health Assembly. We don't have it so much on the agenda, but however, it's very good that it's an opportunity to share experiences here. And from Finland's perspective, yes, we have a long tradition concerning health in all policies. We didn't use that concept in the beginning while we started this kind of approach already in 70s and 80s. Our first public health program from 86 was very much broadly based and in a way covered very much the same approach as health in all policies. And after that we have continued, we have found very long time that we need other sectors, other partners to tackle determinants of health. We started with a more narrow, for example, nutrition and accidents prevention perspectives, but after that have had more broad-based programs. And what I could say is from a perspective of now sustainable development goals and its implementation, it's the basis which we have done for a long time, which we can use now, because continuity, long-term vision, long-term activities very much need time, so it doesn't happen overnight. We need time to implement then. And if you don't have that kind of vision, it's not possible to implement this. Just take up some issues concerning the history of health in all policies, which is the basis for today's work. As I said, we have had this approach for a long time, but 2006, actually this concept of launch by Finland was a president of the EU, and after that we have tried to promote this approach nationally, locally, and internationally as well, so that have a benefit of this kind of multi-sector approach. And after 10 years of that launching of that concept, we had a conference, global conference on health promotion in Helsinki 2013, and for us it was very important. We could use it as a tool to even more emphasize the importance of health promotion and health in all policies in Finland. For our politicians, for example, it was very important to have this visibility. Thanks for WHO for that. So it was very much about how to, and after that we tried also to influence in international level on that, and there were several resolutions adopted in World Health Assembly on this issue. And now I want to take especially the latest one from last year, which concerns the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. There, one of the resolutions is about essential public health functions, because we can't achieve Sustainable Development Goals if we don't have broad approach there, not just universal health coverage of high-level services. We need their public health, we need their preventive services, we need their health promotion, and we need their also health in all policies approach. This is such a big opportunity for us now, while all the Sustainable Development Goals have something to do with health. So these all have influence on health. So we have to work with others to get health as a priority. But at the same time, it's also for us an opportunity. We can also support the implementation of other goals, Sustainable Development Goals, while health is such an important background for all these activities which can and objectives of other goals, for example, hunger, etc. So this is a unique opportunity which we try in Finland to take, so that while, for example, nationally or locally, there are implementation plans or action plans developed for Sustainable Development Goals, we can provide our support, our help, and at the same time find common goals and common objectives how to proceed. And that's something which also really hope that happens also on international level. So I could speak much about what we have done in Finland, but I want to raise one issue which could be useful for others as well to learn from. We have excellent situation on local level in implementation of health in all policies. So we have legislation there in place, and we have very good, very practical implementation situation as well is very good just now. So that most municipalities are very well implementing the duties which they have in law. But we have launched this, we have developed this legislation, and we have given recommendations for the local level, but ourselves, we don't have so good cooperation with other ministries. So there is something which we have to still improve our activities and somehow, yeah. So it's, while we have done a lot for decades, we still have so much to do, and especially this kind of situations, networks are really valuable because we all have something to share and learn from each other's, and really these challenges we can tackle together.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Taro, for the clear link that you have health in all policies with the SDGs. I think that is very important, and it will help us to pave a way to have a clear concept for the international level for the health in all policies. I go to the Thailand. Thailand, Dr. Batasri, I am going to ask you the question about, and I know that you have shared together experience since last year, promoting Thailand has broadened its definition of health to well-being, in which physical, mental, and spiritual and social dimensions of health are in balance. This broad definition opens the doors to reach out to the different actors and sectors to support the implementation of health in all policies. Your National Health Assembly was a crucial mechanism which fosters this wider participation. What is the role of the National Health Assembly to encourage multi-sector and multi-actors and multi-sector participation in the health and all policies? So what have been your 3 key lessons learned from that? Could you tell us?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Minister and all participants. For the National Health Assembly in Thailand is one of the innovative social tools for Thailand. This is for the participatory public policy. It's written in the Thailand National Health Act 10 years ago. So far, the National Health Assembly has been organized for 9 years already. to implement the health in all policy in wider participation in the assembly. I think there are some factors that why the mechanism this work. The first one, I would like to start with the characteristic of the participant in the assembly. It's unlike the participant here in the World Health Assembly because they are from the capital, right? From the ministry, and who attend in the National Assembly then. The first group who attend is, they come from the government sector, they come from public sector, or come from policy sector is the first group. This is ministry of office, department, or something like that is the first group. The second group is come from the societal sectors, such as media, consumer protections, NGO, private sector as well. This group is very important because they can move the agenda and campaign to raise the awareness of the social. The third group is the academia and the professionals, as a university, research institutes, health professional council, consortium is something like that. This sector is crucial for provide the evidence, provide the knowledge to the society. The last group is a representative from the region, from the province. They are stakeholders. This is crucial. This is important because for the local level, because it's the strategy to involve them, because we have to move from the national to the local together. That's why that sometimes we can use the wisdom or the local model to scaling up at the national and discussion in the assembly as well. The second factor to make more participation in the assembly is the agenda. The agenda discussion in the assembly is important. This agenda discussion can be proposed by any of those sectors. It depends and encourage them to use our platform to raise their concern and find out what the resolution of that want. Certainly, the responsibility of the sector influence and is different, but it's effect of the outcome of the public policy that we need. The last thing that for the participation in the assembly is to ensuring that any step of the assembly we include of the participation. We have to extend the level of the participant in the process of proposing agenda, in the process of include in the drafting group to draft the resolution, include in the pre-assembly session to ask them the opinion and collect the opinion before we improve that one. And also is well prepared for the implementation plan for that one, because we have to count on everyone to implement together. For the National Health Assembly implement in Thailand, what the lesson learned from our implementations? I think you may have the question for the representative, because it's different from the World Health Assembly. Since the assembly is a consultation platform, the platform or the consultation forum for the key actor and related to the stakeholders, and asking them for the commitment and effort to move this forward. So deliberative dialogue is we cannot fix to any representative like the parliament talking that you may familiar with, because we need more wider consultation. That's why the representativeness is not a problem in Thailand, because we have changed. It depends on the issue. The second one is to find out the leader, the true leader, the champion, or the true focal point to move agenda forward. because it's some issue we can lead the issue by the health professional, especially for the agenda based on the innovative or the knowledge, something like that. Some agenda can lead by the government sector if we need the law and need to improve of that one and the power of that one. And some can lead by the social sector if we need awareness of the social, something like that. I will conclude this, my expression this now is by support that the to limit or decrease the silo decision making is a key success of the assembly. That I would say. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Potasri, for the answer and especially the role of the National Assembly and the broader consultant that needed even in the future. I will ask Dr. Aroda from Quebec, from Canada. Dr. Aroda, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Ça va?
Ça va très bien.
Let me go to the question. The question is going to be in English, Dr. Aroda. I know because my French is very poor. So
your French is perfect, Mr. Minister.
Just you are encouraging me. Anyway, the question, Dr. Aroda, is already in 1992, you have adopted the policy on health and well-being, which then led to the modernization of the Quebec Public Health Act in 2001, which included also legal levers for prevention and health promotion. One section of this act requires all government sectors to ensure that their laws and regulations do not cause any negative impact on populations of the health, the health of the population. This act seems very groundbreaking. So can you share with us the three key achievements which stemmed from this act?
Okay. Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank the organizers to have invited me to share the Quebec experience on this issue. The act you were referring to is Article 54 from our public health law, which is embedded in Quebec's area of jurisdiction, which includes social programs, health, education, municipal institutions, and administration of justice, among others. Some powers are shared from the province with the federal level, which is like agriculture is on the federal level, but we've got a lot of power in legal for health care systems in Quebec. So there is thus ample opportunities to take action upstream of preventable health problems in various sectors. Moreover, in the recent decades, several laws and policies have proven to be important levers for acting on determinants of health, just as those relating to combating poverty, supporting families, education, environmental protection, and transport. Since 2000, a number of legislative and policy frameworks have especially contributed to better integrating health into sectoral decision-making processes, even when it was not their primary tool. And I will talk about this. Working with others ministries is important to understand what are the objectives and to have an approach of win-win, in fact. Not an approach of, I've got the truth, I'm coming with my work. It's really trying to see how we can find somewhere when we can work together, help even them, their policies and strategies, and being able to do that. This framework has also increasingly brought the various government ministries and agencies toward a common vision of societal issues, better than considering these issues solely from a perspective of their own sectors. So we've worked for years with our public people trying to explain what is the concept of health determinants to make that coming. Indeed, the modernization of our Public Health Act later in 2021, which includes an innovative measure of health promotion, is the fruit of a long work of the public health sector to gain recognition of the importance to address health determinants. It is interesting to know that the adoption of the new public health law by Quebec's parliament was unanimous, even with the very important initiative articles, where some pressure will be made on other sectors to take into account health issues. Because in the Article 54, the Ministry of Health is the principal counselor for the government for any policy plans like this. It's clear that its implementation is variable. Some ministries still today are less willing than others to comply to the mandatory evaluation of their acts, rules and programs, potential impacts on the population health. However, in general, the idea of healthy population as a collective responsibility makes its way in the government. And you know, now in a post-industrial situation where brain and manpower is important even for the economy, you know, I think that even for the finance and health and workshops, working power, having a good health people is a way of getting more rich in this country. This important principle of collective and shared responsibility, or Article 54 on this act, is thus related to the health impact assessment and the approach of health in all policies movements. This health impact assessment, covering many health determinants, has to be done by each ministry and government institution. The Ministry of Health and Social Services does not carry on the analysis. We support them, we try to help them on the implementation, and we let them do this task by themselves. The principal gains of this act are a better positioning of the health matters in the formal decision process, going from the ministry level to the table of ministers and to the prime minister. This gives us a greater legitimacy to make our point in the decision, final decision actually. Also a greater legitimacy to be proactive with others, government and ministries, when they are developing their legislative tools, their policies, their strategic, their action plan, because we try to be at the beginning of the process, helping to orient the orientation. Even if this approach is embedded in our law, we don't have a coercive approach. It's really a teamwork, a win-win situation, and sometimes when we are surprised how much the others have expertise and another perspective to add to our point of view. If we work actually with people coming from Ministère de l'Environnement or from transport, there is new engineers who are trying to design cities in a way better for health. So that long-term work of a changing of a law, of getting health promotion and working on health determinants have gone into a process. Our government, and I think we're going to the top level of the government, because you know, in fact, ministries are working in silos, and you need to have this vision going somewhere, because we can have all kinds of policies going in one side and in the other side, but if we try to have some coherence, kill the silos, the impact even of what we invest could be better. So it's why this, the government, the prime minister asked my minister to be responsible for this policy of health in all policies, and actually that was launched in October last year. We are working with 15 ministries and organizations to an action plan of 5 years, where we're going to really check and also use and make more coherence on our health in all policies approach and the sectorial measures that are taken on education, family, poverty. So I won't go further on this because my minister represents in the side event on Friday at the Permanent Mission of Canada in Geneva. You were invited to be there. I'm doing publicity for Canada and for on this event. And I think it's I think the solution, if I can say, the highest level of the government who believes on it, and then a win-win type of approach situation, and don't think that we have the truth, and probably when we really take time to communicate, to explain where we want to go, the benefits are for the two ministries. Thank you. And as humans are good and good health, they are a very important capital for society. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Aroda, for sharing us your experience in Quebec, which is based on a win-win situation. And I think always win-win situation is the best situation. My question to Dr. Abdallah Sid Ahmed from Sudan. Dr. Abdallah, we want to tell us the strategy of the health and all policies that adopted in Sudan. If there is enough political will behind that strategy, and is all the sectors that involved in that strategy are committed to it?
Thank you very much. I think the story of health and oil policy in Sudan started with reviewing the national health policy, which is currently going on. And so before developing a new policy, the Ministry of Health has asked the Public Health Institute to review the national health policy. During the review of the national health policy, we found that important issues concerning social determinants of health, prevention, primary health care, finance of health are all mentioned. But during the implementation, these issues did not appear quietly on the implementation. And so the question was, why are these not implemented? So it was clear that these issues are not only issues of the Ministry of Health. And these issues cannot be decided on by the Ministry of Health and sent to other to implement. So these two issues came out, that we need to engage other sectors and we need to dialogue with them before deciding on the different issues. And from that started a series of dialogues which ended up by a roadmap for the health and oil policies. We have been, in fact, much assisted and helped by the experience of Finland and by WHO. And the dialogue and the roadmap which has been developed, in fact, presented ownership for these actions. The dialogue made the different sectors to feel that this is their issue, this is their problem, the solution is awaited from them. And at the same time, the roadmap has been owned by all the sectors. Then this roadmap has been taken to the National Health Coordinating Council, which is chaired by the President. And in that coordinating council, a discussion has been around the roadmap, and it has been endorsed. After the endorsement of this roadmap at this level, the dialogue continued, and it has been led by the minister and the undersecretary. So multiple and series of dialogue sessions has been conducted, and this resulted in a commitment from the sectors. There were three types of commitment. There were general commitments to all sectors. They said that they are committed to ensure that their policies and legislations are carrying no harm to health, and they will be beneficial to health. And they are also committed to conduct health assessment, health impact assessment, before endorsing any legislation, and to bring and to bypass these legislations to the Ministry of Health and other ministries before endorsing them. Because before, these legislations was done by the ministry, separate ministry, and separately from other. So this, we think, is going to also develop a sort of dialogue continuously between the different sectors of the government. And this may give also some sort of a whole government approach, because the whole government is discussing the issue and trying to have an input in this issue. Surprisingly, during these discussions, we found the other sectors understand well, even more than us, how their policies and their legislations is really affecting health negatively or positively. So they understand better, and we said once they understand, we just rely on them, because they know their issues, they know their legislations, and they know their sector better. So I think that there is a very important issue also, is that the social capital of Sudan, the nature of the people in Sudan. People are very social, generally very friendly, and easily coming together. So it is easy to bring them. For me, I think it was easy for the minister to mobilize ministers, for the undersecretary to mobilize undersecretaries. This, in fact, social capital is very important, and it is making things easy. Once there is a leadership, then it can easily go. So I think there are 4 factors which led to this quick commitment. One is the intensive recurrent dialogue. The second is the high political commitment from the president and minister himself. Third is the leadership at the ministry from the minister, and fourth is the social capital in Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah, for sharing our Sudan experience in health and all policies. At the end of this round, the first round, I'm going to ask Dr. Nicole. Dr. Nicole, she's responsible for the Department of the Social Determinants in WHO. That's correct?
I'm one removed. Eugenia is responsible for the department, but I work quite intensively on health and all policies.
Yes, okay. Okay, then I think you listen carefully to all the answers throughout the round. So I would like to take all these answers together, how we can go forward, further step with these different experiences together.
I'm going to start off by just summarizing 3 points which I think demonstrate the progress that has been made. First, I think that we're starting to see models for health in all policies emerge, whether those models are talking about the high-level commitment, the cabinet-level commitment, or those models are talking about ways to engage across different social sectors, like the example of Thailand. Secondly, I think the ways of working are starting to emerge more succinctly than, say, if we look at 20 years ago when health impact assessment emerged from the environmental impact assessment domains. And those talk to the issues of co-benefits, they talk to the issues of this perseverance that's been demonstrated, the adaptability that was talked about in Finland's case. And I think if you look at the Adelaide 2 statement, this is the second statement from Adelaide, you'll see a lot of the reflections of the ways of working in that statement, which was compiled by the experts who met at the end of March in Adelaide. A third area, I think, is taking the lens of the risk factors to the other sectors and adding to that lens more the determinants than just taking the risk factors directly. And the last speaker, Abdullah, talked about other sectors knowing their business. This has been a common discussion in intersectoral working networks that I've been involved in the past. I recall also in Norway looking at how well the people in other sectors, the professionals in those other sectors can work on the policy levers, and that just a little bit of help sometimes from health can add gains to what they do. So I think the determinants lens is something important, and as was being said previously, it has been framed by the blueprint of the Sustainable Development Goals. So these are all three areas where I think we've progressed in this area. The areas where I think we need to address further attention and further work are firstly in health promotion, health prevention, public health skills, this area that we're coming from, is to address more head-on the debates around social equity. And I think the Sustainable Development Goals offers this opportunity in the refrain of no one left behind. And I think as the health sector, we need to be brave, not only in financial protection as one of the key instruments offered through the strive towards universal health coverage, but also through health promotion, education, and the way we deal with essential public health functions. This brings me to the second point. So we need to be more systematic about our systems for public health. In the same way, you could say the health systems movement has worked for the last 2 decades, 2.5 decades. I've been involved in it in my early part of my career, a lot in national health accounts, health systems financing, out-of-pocket expenditure in those areas. And it's taken a while to develop a common discourse, a common concepts around health systems and what are the key elements. And coming in the area of public health, I see a tremendous array of instruments, evidence, tools to address specific determinants, be it road traffic, be it related to chemicals, be it related to the production processes for food, etc. So there's and especially at the global level, a tremendous amount of work has been done to address these different types of determinants. But what is the investment, both at the global level, in looking at these systems and models and having norms and standards related to the global level? PAHO has done bodies of work on it. The European Office has done some bodies of work on public health functions. CDC did some work some time ago. So you see pieces of work, but we don't see this movement coming together in the same way that it's come together for health systems and universal health coverage. And I think that's part of the challenge we're facing. And finally, I think the issue of education is extremely important. And when I speak about education, I speak in the spirit also of the Shanghai Declaration, where we're talking about the capital in society in terms of health literacy. And in the different social institutions, in the media, in the teachers, in the different politicians and the ranks of politicians, every 3 or 4 years, as I've watched different ministers coming to the World Health Assembly, and the global knowledge base on health systems grow, and we build on different initiatives. And the new ministers coming along weren't at the beginning of it. And we're talking about something that's maybe 10 years on, and we're not reinforcing the basic principles around the right to health, around financial protection sufficiently. And in the same, I think we need to do, again, think of our work as constant dialogue, constant education, both of ourselves, technical people, both of our politicians, our constituencies in the different countries, and eventually, hopefully, we will have better training in our medical schools and in our public health schools, and that's something we're working on in the network that I'm involved in on training in health in all policies. So I think these are some areas to look to in the future. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for taking all the different experiences and resume it has come out from the different people. Thank you very much. And I'm going to the second round. Actually, I want everybody to stick to the 3 minutes now. There's one question for everybody. The concept had been disseminated to everybody about the global network, how, if that possible, will go forward for further step to have a global network for health diplomacy, the health in all policies, as there is different experiences in some countries, even maybe in some regions, but maybe we need all this take it together in the global level. So this is why I'm going to ask Professor Fadi about what is the value of having a global network to take all these experiences together.
Thank you, Minister. I think the first and very significant value of a network is to learn from each other, to share experiences, to share the evidence. I think it's been said that there is no manual on how to do this, and what we need to do is learn from each other and then contextualise those learnings into our own situations. Those who already have some experience in this can learn about the new things, and those who are coming into the network for the first time can use the experiences of others to start the process. The second thing is to mainstream it, to make it the norm rather than currently the cutting edge. And that mainstreaming then will bring more players, more countries, more states, more jurisdictions from around the world into the network, and so bring the benefits of health in all policies to their populations.
Okay, thank you, Professor Paddy. What do you think, Dr. Terrell?
Yes, thank you. Actually, very much a similar perspective on what the network could provide us. And while listening to what colleague from WHO just told about the future vision, I think it's very similar. Actually, it was almost funny to see what I have written beforehand here on the paper. It was very similar. So to share experiences and to learn from each other's, not only successes, but also where we have some disappointments and what went wrong. So that's actually very more valuable in some circumstances. But very practical issues which we could share. For example, how to get the politicians accountable. So how we can learn from there, because I think that's one of the most difficult issues. And also just beginning how to get them aware of value of health. So that's the starting point. And then how to keep the long-term perspective, vision. If there are disappointments, how to support the experts and civil servants to continue while there are some difficulties and difficult times, to go over these. And then how to increase the health literacy, not just ordinary people, but especially politicians, media and ourselves as well. So I think that's essential, really, really important. And there we have some tools. For example, I want to raise the very valuable manual on health in all policies, teaching manual, which Nicola and colleagues have produced and which could be used much more. There are practical tools. And all these practical tools which we have, human impact assessment, or integrated assessment, we have different tools there, or well-being reports, and all these kind of very practical. These are different, but we could learn from each other's what's successful, how to do it, how to implement it, how to get people in there. And I think the most important is that there is some kind of background or fora or something which supports you while you are trying to strive for health in all policies. And one thing which I would like to raise here also is that we have in Finland been speaking rather long time not about health in all policies. We are more speaking nowadays about health and well-being in all policies, because it's a broader approach. It's perhaps a little bit complicated, but actually in practice, in local level, there are almost 10 years of experience about that. It's not just health in all policies, it's well-being, it's broader. I don't know what other countries or other experts think about that, but we have got, in European level, some positive discussion about that. It could be useful to have a broader approach. So it's easier, perhaps, to get partners and people understand what we are speaking about. It's not just this health imperialism, but it's more broader approach to well-being of people. So I think the network could provide a lot of support for us to share experiences.
Thank you, Dr. Taro. And my question to Dr. Patase. Yeah, what is the value of that, having the global network?
Yeah, for the network.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the benefit of the network from ourselves, from Thailand ourselves, that Thailand needs the exquisite, the global movement, the global direction of the health in all policy. Sometimes we need the inside, outside in to move our implementation in Thailand as well. As a member of the network, I'm thinking of the sharing that you already mentioned. Listen, learn from each other. Thailand can learn from you and something like that for the improvement of our own. Yes. Myself is a background of the academics. I'm thinking of the sharing, not only the implementation. We can establish the knowledge, the new knowledge by published academic, technical, scientific publication or policy brief to promote of the health in all policy like that. And finally, I agree with you that we can promote the health in all policy platform forum as a tool for the SDG achievement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pratas. And Dr. Aroda.
Yes, I don't want to repeat what has been said. Even if we work on this for years, we always are, I would say, look at the literature and are inspired by experiences like South Australia, Finland, Thailand, and everything like this. So I think it's important. Another issue is that I think sometimes also, as you told, we can learn from what goes well, and sometimes things that doesn't go well. And this is very important to share.
Yeah.
Because I think you mentioned it from Thailand, I believe on this. And also sometimes governments also like to know where innovations have been implemented and what was the successes. I think that's always well because. And another thing is that we are not profit. In French, we say, on n'est pas des prophètes dans son pays. In your own country, sometimes people don't appreciate you too much, but when you go outside, everybody is happy. So having a network is important. When you come, you met somebody from Australia or Finland, came to Canada to explain things. Oh my God, it's wonderful, they've done it. So don't forget, people sing the power of love, but I'm telling the power of a network is important, you know. And you know, those networks of people that share commitments can make things change. I have a dream. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Together, yes, we can. So, Dr. Abdallah, what do you think?
Thank you. I think it is now clear that the idea of health in all policies is simple and easy to understand. But when you come to the implementation, there will be a very great challenge, in fact. And that is why I think you need to bring together experiences, to bring together expertise, and try to do that in a systematic way. Because now, when we started our experience, we tried to find such experiences and what countries have done. But this is, in fact, fragmented. It is there and here and so on. But it is not present in a systematic way so that you can look at it and see it and then start to analyze. So I think that the first thing for the global network is that bringing these experiences in a systematic way so that it is easily understood and easily make use of it. And I think that is very important. Also, when you need to train to train a lot of people. Now, the concept of the health workforce is going to change. Instead of saying that the health workforce is those people who are working in hospitals and in the health sector, you will find that health workforce is there in the agriculture and is there in water and is there in the... To train all these, I think you need expertise and you need the experiences of others. And this can be done, cannot be done by one country. So you need others. The last point maybe is the sharing of knowledge, because through doing, implementing, you need, I think a lot of research is going on, as we have seen in Adelaide conference. So this knowledge need to be shared with others and need to be then taken further and further. I think all these are, in fact, benefits from the network. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Let me go to Nicole to conclude it also. Always you conclude the second round.
I think I'd be repetitious if I went through everything. I think that the speakers have covered all the essential issues. It's about having other international examples when you might not be listened to in your own country. You've got other supports from elsewhere. It's about those lonely hours when you're a civil servant and you don't know how to persuade the politician and you don't have a network to fall onto, like the network of oncologists or the network of other professionals. It's about the training that was just mentioned. It's about learning from other people's experience of training. It's about accessing different experiences in a more systematic way. So I think these are lots of benefits. I recall the same or very similar issues being raised when we started during the Commission on Social Determinants with the Public Health Agency of Canada in 2007. We held a series of network discussions around intersectoral action at the time. And these same issues came out as being very valued, and people were so happy to be able to talk to other people to overcome certain practical things. As Tara mentioned, how do you get politicians accountable and grappling with that problem over years. And as the context change, as the global context and the national context change. So I think all of these are super reasons. And at WHO, we've been trying to look at how we can help networks. And one of the things we've started to develop is an automated system under the label of Action SDG for linking together news items, tweets, that sort of thing that are coming from different communities of practice. And the one we would obviously like to support first is the Health in All Policies Network, if we can. So we've been looking at that very much on the e-tool side. And then obviously, as you know, since the 2015, we launched the training manual on Health in All Policies, and we have a database of trainers, participants. We're putting together a report on the training activities, but we'd like to continue doing that, do more of it, look at where the trainings can be improved, adapted. We're looking at adapting it in a UN course that's going to be held for the SDGs. So these are some of the services we're trying to look at. Also, we've tried to work on a case study database, and we've tried to convene some other collaborating centers to help us with that. It's been a bit difficult, but PAHO has also started to work. So I think there are ways, if we come together, we can, and we have a good audience to say, yes, these cases make sense. I think there's a way we can systematize experiences, having that bilateral conversation between the users and the more technical groups involved, like the collaborating centers. And then there was one final point I wanted to make. Now it's just escaped me. So I think those are the scope of things that we've been looking at. And there's a lot of things, I think, that we would like to be able to support the network in. But we have, obviously, budget constraints, as every UN organization has. And we I think, have the vision, and we share the vision, but we need to do what we can step by step. So that's from the WHO side, I think, how we feel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. I would like to share the audience with us. You hear the different experiences from different countries. Then also you hear the importance of having a global network for the health and health policies. So I would like to give chances to the audience. I hope to be, if the question mentioned directly whom of the panelists question to him, and if the comment, please be stick to the, and very short, please. Yes? I hope somebody can stand here. Yes, yes, okay.
Thank you, Carlos Dora, WHO, fascinating panel. You all are good politicians and you're very good, willing people. I'm sure you will find a lot of conflict of interest when you're trying to work with other sectors. Now, none of you talked about money, and I thought it was a bit peculiar. And, so my question is, do you use quantification? Do you use economic analysis? Do you use, because you haven't addressed that, and and how useful do you find that may be, or really it is more about a good spirit and making friends and sort of reaching out? So I just would like to be more pointed in that. And it's around, I think, what Dr. Osman was pointing out at the end, evaluation, you know, and looking more critically at it, and how much can you use the quantification, the money part, as a help, or how much that's a hindrance?
Oh. Yeah.
If I may start, that's something, issues which I actually plan to raise during my statement. That's something where we really need support. We really need more data, knowledge, evidence. That's something which we have faced in Finland for many, many years. And there is not yet enough data, knowledge, evidence. And it's really difficult to discuss with Minister of Finance or Ministry of Finance civil servants if we don't have any figures, if we can't show anything about what we are doing. And that's something which there is more and more that kind of information, but not enough. And that's something where we are all the times not succeeding so well if we don't have this evidence. And that's something where we could share knowledge. And of course, there are different circumstances, and not all the data is applicable to all countries. But however, there's much such information which we could share. And I don't know how much WHO can support us there, but of course, all these collaborating centers, there's a lot of expertise there which could be useful for all of us. So really, I think that's one of the most important questions while we are thinking how to have proper role for health promotion, disease prevention, preventive services, and also this health in all policies approach. It's not possible to do anything if we don't have proper figures and proper data, especially on economic perspective.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Everybody from the panelists want to add anything for the question of money, how you go forward? Okay.
I will just mention the experience. I
Very
think
short.
during the discussion, the minister has invited other ministers, related ministers, to discuss. One of them was the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance was interested in the discussion because he thinks that for the first time, the Ministry of Health is talking about the value for money. That means interventions which are going to be less costly, because we said that instead of waiting till people become ill and come to the hospital and you pay all the expenses, it is better to start from before and try to address the roots of the issues. He was very happy because he said that this is a new approach, and this is, as he said, an economical approach. So I think the dialogue is going to open the door for money. If you have a strong argument, if you have evidence, as has been mentioned, then I think money will follow.
Okay, Dr. Patas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. For the money, for the example of Thailand, for the National Health Assembly, we don't talk about the money. Because this platform, we sharing vision, sharing wisdom, sharing knowledge, and sharing opinions to make a consensus. And in the implementation, we have to share the resources we have. And the effort, every effort from you, from all sector to make it happen at a synergy. We can go anywhere if we have the money, more budget. That I agree with you. If we do this thing, it should show this is the right way. I think the money is come.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I'd just like to bring out the point that Taru made, that in fact that the evidence base, for some of it's philosophical. It's about reducing social inequity and a variety of other reasons that are very difficult to quantify on an economic basis. Building social capital is one, but in fact that's one of the values of the network, is to share that evidence base through case histories where there have been clear economic benefits to it.
Okay, thank you. Then I go back to the, yes, yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful discussion. My name is Nadia Cobb, and I'm with the University of Utah in the U.S. There's a growing body of evidence about the social determinants of health, really being responsible for 70 to 80% of somebody's health status. And that's a wonderful argument when you're thinking intersectoral, but I'm drawn back to the High-Level Commission on Health, Employment, and Economic Growth, and a large part of that has to do with the social determinants of health as well, and bringing in kind of an intersectoral approach. So the alignment of multiple groups is really rather remarkable, and my hope is that the groups can come together, at certain points, so it's not multiple people running down similar paths. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes? Yeah?
Hi, thank you for a wonderful panel as well. I'm Vivian, I'm a medical student from Canada, and I've actually done a little bit of work with the Health and All Policies approach in the past. I had the opportunity to chat with a public health officer back in my province in Ontario, Canada. And there was a little bit of pushback to the idea because from his perspective, what he thought was that a health and all policies approach would encompass implementing tools such as the health impact assessment. And his question to me was, well, where do we get the resources to implement this? Where do we get the personnel? How do we actually make use of these tools? So I'm wondering, for those of you who do have a health and all policies approach in your state or country, how does it actually work technically? What kind of approaches do you take? What kind of tools do you use to implement it?
Okay, thank you. Who's going to answer this question? Technically? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Ladies first.
Yes.
Ladies first, yes, thank you. There are many kind of tools, and it's depending what kind of tools you are using, how much resources you need there. For example, health impact assessment, if you do it very broadly, very deeply, you need there a lot of resources. But you can do very much just by thinking. It's very much, I think, about the attitude, a way of thinking, so that you take into account the health aspects and you get the other sectors, other colleagues, understand what's it about. So it's very much about discussion, sharing, doing together, and there are many things which doesn't need so much resources. For example, different kind of networks, working groups, committees. It's just a way of working. So that if there are different perspectives together, you learn from each other, so you understand better what the other is doing and what are the perhaps common goals and common ways to work. So there are different approaches. This can be expensive, of course, but most it's about your own time and the others' time and how you get them others motivated and so that we understand each other and what we are aiming at. So it doesn't always need some resources. I think people are saying that we need more people and more resources, more money. They are not willing to do it.
Okay, thank you. Nicole?
I mean, at the same time, I think you need some minimal level of capacity. I mean, Taru is speaking from a context of Finland, where they already have a lot of investment in different health promotion and prevention structures. But in some countries where they've maybe focused all their effort on the healthcare system and have very little oversight or governance for health more generally, there is some investment required. However, I'd agree with Taru with respect to the scope that an in-depth health impact assessment can take you into, which in environmental impact assessment is often at the cost of the company that's going to undertake the infrastructure development, for example, and that cost can be quite a proportion of the total investment cost in infrastructure. So I think the key issue that we discussed a lot in Adelaide, again, the back page of the Adelaide statement, is this area of co-design. And what Paddy will attest to in the South Australia work, and one example sticks out in particular, is this element of co-design. Because as Taru is saying, you've got the committees already working on developing the policy options to present, or the implementation plan. And what about if they're able to add a different perspective? You can have a summary of some of the recent evidence. WHO does produce lots of evidence on determinants, but present that in a way that the other sector can absorb it and take it into their recommendations. These are ways that are not super labor intensive, not super resource intensive. Coming back to the water example in South Australia, it was one of their earlier LENS project, or Health in All Policies thematic project, and in it they helped to design the policy for grey water. And there were some things that they were looking at with a health lens that the engineers weren't looking at. And one particular issue related to social equity, and that was the pricing structure for grey water, which would end up creating demand for grey water or recycled water by poorer households. With a poor taste of the water, the kids would shift to sweeteners in the drinks, whether it's syrups or maybe even sodas, rather than drinking water. And they did an analysis of that because the Department for Water was already doing a survey of households, so they were able to add 1 or 2 questions or change the orientation of the question. So there you can see an impact on the policy in another sector, which I don't think it cost more time than health would have spent trying to do a health promotion on better drinking of non-sodas, or more time that would have taken for the engineers to run their survey they were going to run anyway. Okay. So thank you.
Okay, Dr. Aroda, very quick, please. I want to go back to the audience.
Just one thing. If you look at the quantity of policies that goes one side and another side, if we do currents, we choose priorities, our impact is going to be better with the same money. It doesn't mean I will ask for more money for our policy. I'm sure we tax from sweet to come back to this. But I think there is a lot of energy sometimes that with coherence and priorities and good timing, one policy with another one is going to make the difference. Even with the money, this is there actually. And also, that's not a policy of health, that's a policy of a government. And when education, finance, social ministry is working together, they're working on their plan too.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the middle, yeah.
Thank you very much. The discussion is very interesting and informative because I have heard experience from all regions, like from Europe, from North America, from Africa, from Asia and Pacific. And I also heard about the WHO has done a lot and got materials like database for trainees, manual for health in all policy training course, things like that. And the value of the global network is clear. No one argue about that. But what I don't hear yet is how the global network will be operationalized. So the question will be to all panelists, please.
Okay, the question, who's going to answer how the global network going to be operationalized? Okay, okay. I will try to answer this question. I think you can establish a steering committee at the end of the session. Then let us think about how can do that. Really, as mentioned here, there are some priorities needed, like the data and the information and the different experiences, how to put together. That needs some mechanism to follow up. So through that, I think different ideas come out to see how we can operationalize. That's acceptable? Yes. Okay. Yes, here, then there. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I am Riyad Bazia. I'm an international consultant based in Geneva and with observer status in the UN following international negotiations, including in the health sector. I want to share a comment which is also questions, but it could be also, you can conclude about what I will share with you. About finance, yes, if you ask any expert in the international negotiation on health, you ask him what happened or what what was wrong with MDGs or what it worked good. He will tell you that just before the end, the financial and negotiation, there was pushed more. And this is what the international community said just when the SDGs launched. Then if the crowdfunding, social investment, responsibility investment, and those other shadow banking, other aspects to finance, which is on the AAA, Addis Ababa Action Agenda, launched just last year in Addis Ababa, which is very useful for the new WHO DG. And this is what I want to hear. I want to hear your appreciation on that. Second strategic item also I want to share with you, which is also linked with the operationalization, the global network. When we said in the UN, yes, the fair globalizations, why not? Well, yes, G20, yes, the board to administrate globalizations. And I said, how about G20 Health Ministerial Council? And they said, it is a dream. The first Ministerial Council in G20 used to be, as you remember, the financial crisis. And it was since a few years ago. Since 3 weeks ago, the dream became reality. The first session on G20 Health Ministerial Council. And I think Canada and Australia, they're both G20 members. I want to hear your appreciation on these two aspects. The AAA, there's a different kind for financing. It could be possible. Also, in Canada, there was also about the cooperative in the health sector. Yeah, there was international meeting there, I guess. And I stop here. Thank you very much.
Cooperative. Cooperation,
Yeah, no.
Isn't it? Yes, okay. Just your back there. So, okay, thank you for the comment. It would be considered. Yes, okay. Yes.
Good evening, Excellency and distinguished panel. Thank you so much for your presentations. I'm Shireen Lindsay-Hurst from the Institute for Media and Global Governance. My question I put to you, please, is how far have policies been developed at government level to integrate private sector engagement regarding the leveraging of financial support for national and local health delivery? For example, the use of foundations such as the Bill Gates Foundation and the use of entrepreneurs re-innovation in health technologies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can take some more questions, then you can answer together. I think it's, just distribute the question, because I think we have some challenges about that time, okay? I am going to take 4 questions, okay? Okay. Here, yes? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman, for the very interesting meeting and for the good exchange of views, which we have benefited a lot from. In fact, I would like to comment on, I have heard many speakers speaking about implementation of health in all policies and how many bodies are involved in this. And one of the speakers, in fact, has mentioned that more than 15 ministries are involved in this. I'm just wondering if there is a specific body or a specific ministry that takes the responsibility of coordination. How does the work is coordinated amongst all these ministries? The second point, I would like to agree with the lady from Norway when she said that we benefit from exchange of views, from exchange of experiences, from the success of those experiences. I would like to add also people can benefit from discussing the failures. The failure also is leading us or will lead us to success if we discuss why the failure is there. How do we go about failure? How do we correct failure and change it into success? The last point I would like to also, I wanted to raise was on finance, but the gentleman has already raised. I just wanted
more than 3 people raised about the finance.
I just wanted to add to it, specifically in developing countries. Yes. Because when you look at the budget of developing countries, you find that very little has been allocated to health.
Okay,
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Yes, you. Yeah.
Yes, Boris Engelson, a local journalist freelance. I missed the first half of your panel, unfortunately, but reading the panels, the boards, I understand that it's about getting out of poverty, of health poverty, and catching up with the good models and practices. But I understand that we, the rich country, are the good model. Apparently, you are not aware that the health system and health in general in the rich country is a disaster. And once you get there, you will regret that the objectives have to be sustainable because you will want to get out of it as soon as possible. We are collapsing, the system is collapsing financially. It is leading to overconsumption, not only overweight, overconsumption. Medical fashion change every day. Each time you go and see your doctor, you realize he said exactly the opposite of the other doctor last week, so you don't go to the doctor anymore. And it is not a model, it's not a sustainable model, not a promising model. So what will you do once you bring all countries to this failed model?
Okay, thank you. Yes?
Thank you very much for the very wonderful discussion. Just maybe a quick question to WHO about the role of research in this kind of work stream. We know that research usually shape the agenda and shape the policies. So if there is any kind of thinking about to develop further the research agenda on this area, if there is any kind of like thinking of developing and supporting this network with like a hub for research around these issues.
Okay, then let us start with the last question with WHO about the research.
I think we are looking at encouraging our network of collaborating centers to research more around evaluation and instruments for measuring change and the impact of health in all policies. So that's one area for research. And that would tie back to the structures used, the cost of the structures, the decision-making processes, etc. So this is an area where we have started in the PAHO region to develop an indicators. We had a year-long process to develop some process indicators. In the European region, they're revising some of the indicators that they were using in this area. So there are groups of technical collaborators from different academia that are looking into these issues. So that's definitely an important area, and I think the early discussions of the network have highlighted this as an important way of exchange. There are some tools that can be used, and that some countries that are embarking on the health and all policies journey might want to share and try in their context. So that's one answer.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from the gentleman. I think, if I understood correctly, he's saying that the model in the developing countries is not the model that... sorry? In the developing or develop it? Yes. This is what I am saying. Yes. This is why. Yes, this is what I understood. The model in the developed country is not a good model. So please rely on your own models. I think this is what you meant. That correct?
I wouldn't go that far. I say that the model you pursue is in crisis.
Yes.
And that maybe this should be taken into account in the SDGs.
Yes, okay. Good. Yes. Okay, Dr. Aroda.
Yes, I think when we talk about health in our policies is a way to not put people into the health system, okay? It's we work before people get sick and try to make them live in a healthy way. It's about education, it's about reducing social inequalities of health, it's about social approaches to communities and everything. So if we have to develop something, it's primary care, which is very, very important, not the ultra specialized thing. There is very big expenses in our system for, I would say, third, fourth generation types of tests, who doesn't give a big gain as a population-based approach. So this is a response to exactly because the people are getting older, the system is going to collapse if we don't make prevention. And I think that's the one part of the reasons why we cannot afford anymore more than 50% of the budget of a government going to health. We cannot afford it more, so we need to work before, and we need to stop those diseases that we created, like diabetes type 2 in young kids. That doesn't exist when I did my medical course. This is a civil disease that we created with the way we live, the way we eat, and the way we don't walk anymore and things. So that's part of health in our policies.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Dr. Tora.
Yes, and that's a very good question, because that's actually an issue which I raised in my first statement about sustainable development goals, especially the universal health coverage in goal 3. It's not possible to reach those goals if there's not a sustainable basis for the system, the whole system. Public health functions, primary health care, health promotion, all these. Because of that, the resolution last year was adopted in World Health Assembly. I really hope that it could be supportive to member states while they are trying to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. Universal health coverage needs that approach. Really, it's not possible without them. But may I continue with other issues? Yes. Yeah. There was one very good question concerning specific body for coordination of health and all policies. That's really essential. Our experience in Finland has shown that you need some permanent structures, permanent processes on which you can build the cooperation and work together. So, but there's needing different kind of bodies. For example, on local level in Finland, there's a duty for municipalities to have a body responsible for health and well-being of the residents. And usually it's the I don't know the exact word, but the leading group of the municipality. There are the leaders of all sectors together, which usually take care of administration. But they also are responsible for coordinating the activities concerning the health and well-being of the residents of a municipality. So that it's combined, it's not just a separate body, but it's the body which is working together, making the strategies and also preparing for the politicians the proposals, etc., and which also makes decisions about the implementation. So it's built in there. And of course there's needed some special groups, for example, if there are problems, for example, marginalization of young people, there needs to be also then an intersectoral group to think what to do. But in general level, it's useful to have this kind of administrative body. And on national level, we have in Finland a so-called public health committee, which comprises of all ministries. And that's something which, actually I have to say that just now it's not set up. There's the time we have to do it again, but we have had it for a long time. And so it's like more like a discussion fora, and we are trying to get through this board the initiatives from ministries to a common board to discuss this issue. But there are more formal ways to organize this. For example, in the parliament, we have a separate committee for health and social issues, which takes care of or goes through the discussions about all new legislation and budget, etc. It's permanent by law. And then there are some other issues. For example, all permanent secretaries of ministries form also a body where they are discussing the day-to-day issues. So we need several kind of bodies, but these are really important. If we want this kind of permanent structures, it's very difficult to proceed, because every time when there's a problem, you have to call the others what to do and who is the right person to be responsible. It's much more easier to put these on the fora which already exist there.
Okay, thank you. Yes, okay, Professor Paddy.
I think that there are a couple of things, and what my answer relates to the question about getting the private sector involved in this area. So when South Australia started this, as I said at the beginning, there was no manual, but now there are quite a lot of documents, WHOs and others. We had experiential help from and advice from a variety of places. But one of the things that we've learnt about industry is that often if you go and talk with them, you will find in a way that their interests, their commercial interests align with the community interests in many instances, and that the benefits economically for them come from the benefits to the community, because the community are the consumers. And so cooperation is the first way of dealing with that. And then there comes regulation and legislation. And regulation in South Australia means at lower levels than the laws, but still means that there are things that they must abide by or be penalised for. And so it's a hierarchy, if you like, of gaining their cooperation, and that's worked relatively well.
Okay,
I will try to address his concern about his issue about the coordinating unit of the health organization.
The responsibility.
In Thailand, we use the National Health Commission chaired by the Prime Minister to be a coordinating unit. Not only the coordinating between the ministry, ministry, but also all stakeholders, all that one. And I agree with you that we can learn from the experience from the developed countries and in the developing countries as well, but we cannot copy. Because we respect of the difference of the health concern, health issue, and different context as well. That I would say. The last one from the lady asking about the health law policy implementations. For us, when we see the health law policy, we see it as the concept, not the implementation manual handout or something like that. We try to create the tool of implementation in Thailand. For the health law policy implementation, we use the health impact assessment as a tool of that one. HiA, health impact assessment, implement in the national level, also in the community level as well. We use the tool of the health charters in the national health charter and the local health charter together, and the assembly as well. Not only the national one we have, but we have the local one as well. But the keyword of these two is participation of all actors. The second one is dialogue and consultations. The last one is based on evidence we have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. From the panelists, okay. Then I will give 1 minute for every panelist member for closing remarks. I will start with Abdullah.
Okay, thank you. I think for me the main issue is that we all now agree that we need the experience of each other. We need to assist each other. We need to make maybe common pools for expertise and experiences. We need to document the experiences in a systematic way, and I think we should start to operationalize the global network.
Dr. Arroyo?
I think we know that health is not under the health sector. Most of the solution is elsewhere. So I think, and there is benefits of doing it. And even if there is no more money, I could say that we can do probably better if we do invest where it's worth it. And we know that investing in healthcare, especially in new countries, and we did create also new diseases by the fact that our way of living. Please don't copy necessarily the big countries. When you look at the health status of the people from Cuba compared to the one to United States, you see that primary care, education, and social determinants have a big impact on population health. So I think, and it's why we should make our experiences together to try to change a little bit the way things are going on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patas.
Okay, thank you. My word is not closing word, but I think our mission just start from now on to make it happen as a network happen. How to make it happen, it active and likely that the lady has said. Maybe it's time to need more effective communications of both technical and advocacy as well, not only the technical one. And for the movement of the network, I think we have to have a strong secretariat to raise the issue, to exercise, to make the member exercise of thinking and input and communication together as well. And sometimes we have to thinking of the regular or the opportunity to face-to-face meeting, something like that, and discussion and sharing together. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Padi.
I think the past has been very informative, and that has helped us. But the next stage with the global network will be particularly fruitful from sharing and learning with each other, and also making health in all policies the norm for governments rather than, as it is currently, probably the exception.
Okay, Dr. Toro.
So there's not much to add. Well, listening to the colleagues, I think we all can learn from each other. Some of us are more advanced, some are in the beginning, but we all have something to learn from each other and our successes and not so successful things which we have done. And because of that, I think the network can provide a lot of support for all of us. And what I especially would like to emphasize that nothing happens fast. We really need a long-term perspective and vision about where we are going. That's something which I think we can share and support each other while tackling these difficult issues which are obstacles in implementing health and well-being in all policies.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Nicole.
I'd like to think that by 2030, this network, this global network on health and all policies will have made a significant contribution to progressing the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, at the end of this side event of the health and all policies, just I would like to conclude it that after this fruitful and productive discussion and presenting the different experiences from the different countries participated by the audience with the questions and comments, I would like to say that what we come out from this side event is this idea of health and all policies supported by all the participants, and there is value for having a global network in order to try to bring all these different experiences together and collecting data and information and disseminate it to the different participants, and we go step by step to share all those who are interested. And we need also to show how we can collaborate with WHO and the other actors. We know that we have countries and we have non-country actors also. So I think the steering committee can start with the state actors and supported by the non-state actors, and we go forward to see in the future how we can, as Nicole said, that at least in 2030, we hope that this experience of health in all policies can be generalized throughout the world, because I myself believe that if we manage to do that, it will reduce a lot of cost. It will bring all these awareness together, because in Sudan I saw when we established the National Council for Health Coordination, headed by the president, and brought all the ministries from the health sector and outside the health sectors, and the governors from the different states. It makes very big difference. So, and as mentioned also, different experiences now in this panel list. I think if we manage to do that, it will help a lot to have good well-being for all the people of the national community, all the people in elsewhere. So I hope now we can declare that we will start. We will start with the global network. We will start with the steering committee from those who are attending now here, and also everybody want to be part of that. I think it is open, and let me, because I am the only minister now attended to the end, I declare that I will put $100,000 US dollars for the network to start. Then after that, we can see how we can. Then later we will engage all the others to see how we can go forward. So thank you very much. I would like to thank Professor Paddy from Australia and Dr. Toro from Finland, Dr. Nicole from WHO, and Dr. Patasi from Thailand, and Dr. Aroda from Quebec, from Canada, Abdullah Sid Ahmed from Sudan. And thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming, and just let me finish with one quote. The power of love is nice, but the power of network is better. So there's a reception upstairs, so please enjoy. Thank you.